What are your top 3 high intensity training techniques? Or maybe with your athletes that you found are productive with certain athletes, maybe some examples there or
Load, getting close to failure or going to failure, forced
okay.
reps, static holds. Like there's all kinds of intensity techniques. It's just a matter of like, where does it really fit in the grand scheme of things? You know, it's hard to answer that. Like these are the 3 things I think you should always do. Like it's like it's not
That's
so like
laughable.
because there's
Yeah.
some days where I'm like, I don't feel like training with high intensity. I don't want to go to failure today. So like, okay, in order to kind of generate the same type of stimulus that I'm looking for, you know, maybe it's just, okay, I'm going to back off a little bit and I'm going to add an extra setting. Here's the questions like, are you going to get more stimulus doing, let's say 2 sets to absolute failure or 3 or 4 sets with 2 to 3 in the tank? Let's say we're in the same rep range. Which one's going to deliver most results? I don't know,
Gosh.
but I've done both and I can tell you like, I'm tired either way, whether it's 2
Right.
hard sets or 4 little less harder sets. I still feel like I got something out of it. So I think sometimes instead of thinking like here, we think here. It seems like bodybuilders are always right here and they're never out here. And a lot of that's probably just sometimes it's just like lack of experience or even lack of exposure, that type of thing. So I don't have like 3 intensity techniques that I'm going to say like everybody just has to do this stuff. So
Yeah.
whether it's like going to failure, whether it's like increasing your loads, whether it's like doing more reps, that's all higher intensity, right? Wherever you can create more of a state, like it's like what we were talking about, right? In order for me to generate more intensity on the flat pressing without using load it's like, okay, let me slow rep speed down. Let me focus a little more on eccentrics. So there's different ways to create stimulus, different ways to create more quote unquote intensity. Maybe it's shorter rest periods. Maybe it's longer rest periods too, because longer, like you would think like higher intensity, shorter rest periods are gonna make it harder. But if you go, let's say you rest a little bit longer and it allows you to lift more in the next set, well, now you're more intense in the second set. Again, not thinking here, think here. Let's take a big step back and kind of try to look through it through different lenses.
I remember there was a video that was put out. This was definitely in your old house, your old home gym, where I believe you guys were doing like heavy shoulder press. You and Berto, you were spotting him, and he was doing like, I think it was like the hundreds, and he was doing like rest pause.
Oh, he
You
was
remember
doing
that
this.
video?
Was he doing the seesaw presses? I'm like, why is he doing like this before I really knew him? I'm like,
Sure.
what is he doing? Like
What a throwback,
it,
though.
it did not look very practical, right? It looked kind
Right.
of unsafe. Form was all over the place. If you think about it, like he didn't drop the dumbbells, right? So I'm like, okay, he worked his delts. He probably got some triceps out of there. And think about like what his core was doing to
Oh, man.
stabilize that. He's getting a benefit from it. It's just probably not the best approach to get the job done. But there's always like pros and cons to everything. Like you could say, oh, okay, this did that and that was productive. Or you could look at it and go, ooh, that was kind of like, ooh, that's kind of ugly. Like I wouldn't recommend that. Let's just say that.
Right, right. The reason I brought that up because I believe you guys, I don't know if he was doing like a rest pause set. Maybe I have that wrong, but is that something that you implement at all anymore? Like myo reps, rest pause? Are you doing any of those things at this point in time? Or do you find that it just doesn't really groove with your current situation?
I personally don't do a lot of myo reps. I was doing myo reps with those push-ups because I can do a ton of push-ups. So it's like, okay, let me do myo reps here. That way it's like I'm not spending a ton of time doing these push-ups. Let's just get it in, get it out, good stimulus. Whether it's better or not in the straight sets, who knows? It's probably splitting hairs again. But that was kind of practical. I wouldn't use myo reps, let's say more than 2 exercises a session, just because it's very demanding. It's
You're
super
right.
intense. So if you're doing everything myo reps, man, you're probably end up gassing yourself out. Certain exercises, it makes sense. Push-ups, laterals, arm work, those types of smaller lifts, they definitely can be beneficial there. But yeah, personally, like right now with prep and all that, yeah, I'm not using like super high intensity type techniques because I'm trying to manage the supply and demand.
At what point in prep would you say that, like, let's say, well, maybe you weren't doing it before though, because you mentioned you don't really do a lot of myo. You did it just for a few exercises. But do you have any athletes doing it? Have you noticed that you have to like cut it off at a certain point with them, like as they're getting leaner? Does it depend
Well,
again? I
during
guess.
prep, yeah, during prep, it's not something that I'm going to like program too often. If an athlete is pressed for time, they have busy lifestyle and that type of thing, or we're trying to get that volume in there, then we'll program it in. But it's usually like arm work or it's
Right.
laterals, or maybe calves. We're not doing back work like that. We're not doing like compound exercises like that. It's just like the smaller stuff. And it's more from a time perspective more
Okay.
than anything. It's not
Right.
like with the thought of like, hey, if we do this, we're going to generate more hypertrophy or we're going to see better muscle retention because we're doing these things. It's a tool. All it is a tool. And the goal of it, when I prescribe it, is more so from a time component. Or if someone just really enjoys feeling pain, because because there are people that like to train with like, I want to feel like I'm getting after it a lot. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, we can do it, but let's just be smart about it.
I can relate to that part actually, because for me anyways, and I'm bringing this up because maybe someone can relate. Okay, if I don't do the myo reps, let's say I do one set, the quote unquote activation set of, I don't know, 10 to 20, somewhere in there, or 8 to 12,
Yeah.
resting 15 seconds and just doing it again, or even 30 or 45. Like I'll cap it at 45 because at that point it's then you're just doing straight sets, I think, right?
Right.
But you're just like, this really does save time. And then you're feeling those effective or quote unquote effective reps a lot sooner than you would if you rested that extra minute or two. Now, I don't do this on heavy compounds. Like I don't do this on dumbbell presses or pull downs or anything like that. But for like the isolation stuff, it's like a treat in terms of time saver, because you're like, oh, now I got to rest 2 minutes just to get this next set of 12.
Personality too. Like my personality, I'm very chill. Like I don't feel like to feel pressured. Straight sets and leaving 3 to 4 minutes in between a smaller exercise, right up my alley. Or somebody might have more anxiety than I do, fidgety, that would probably kill them to sit there for 3 minutes before they do an next set.
Yeah. Okay.
So you got to think from that perspective too.
I like that.
Low volume, low protein, lower fats.
Interesting.
So if I'm at 6% body fat, whether I had 80 grams of fat the whole way or 30, I don't know which way it's going to be better. I'm still probably going to be relatively in the same spot. So blood work's only going to tell me, like, right? I think of getting blood work all the way through 30 grams of fat, getting to 6%, then doing it again. What are the differences there? But then there's also